Good morning, children. Today we will have a new lesson. The title of the lesson is The Indigo, written by Louis Fisher. So, this is the fifth lesson from your first textbook. Louis Fisher, who was born in the year 1896 and died in the year 1970, was born in Philadelphia. Okay, so we will know something about the writer now. Yeah, it's a overall view about Louis Fisher. Is an American journalist. Among his work were a contribution to the ex-communist treatise The God That Failed, a life of Mahatma Gandhi, basis for the Academy Award-winning film Gandhi, as well as a life of Lenin, which won the 1965 National Book Award in History and Biography. This is from Wikipedia information. Born on 29 February 1896, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States. Died 15 January 1970, Princeton, New Jersey, United States. Nationality American. Awards: National Book Award for History and Biography. Okay, then education: Central High School, South Philadelphia High School in United States. Okay, children. Yeah, let us continue the real text. Indigo. About the author: Louis Fisher, 1896-1970, was born in Philadelphia. He served as a volunteer in the British Army between 1918 and 1920. Fisher made a career as a journalist and wrote for the New York Times, the Saturday Review, and for European and Asian publications. He was also a member of the faculty at Princeton University. The following is an excerpt from this book, The Life of Mahatma Gandhi. That is the real book. From this book only this portion of text is taken. The excerpt is taken from The Life of Mahatma Gandhi. The book has been reviewed as one of the best books ever written on Gandhi by Times Educational Supplement. So dear children, today we will have the role of Gandhiji in settling the Champaran issue. That's a turning point in Gandhi's life. Okay, actually it refers the Indian history. If you have much interest, you can read in the Indian history where the Champaran episode is there. Right. Notice this expression in the text. Infer the meaning from the context. Urge the departure, conflict of duties, harbor a man like me, seek a prop. These are all the expressions that expressions that come in the text. Shall we start straight away? Yeah. So I told you already, this is all about Gandhi's role in settling the Champaran issue, and that was a turning point in the life of Mahatma Gandhi. When I first visited Gandhi in 1942 at his ashram in Sevagram in central India, he said, I will tell you how it happened that I decided to urge the departure of the British. It was in 1917. Actually, Gandhi was working for the independence of our country and was trying his best to serve India in a better way. He had gone to the December 1916 annual convention, that is meeting of Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow. There were 2,301 delegates and many visitors during the proceedings, Gandhi recounted. A peasant came up to me looking like any other peasant in India, poor and emaciated, and said, I am Rajkumar Shukla, I am from Champaran, and I want you to come to my district. Gandhi had never heard of the place. It was in the foothills of the towering Himalayas near the kingdom of Nepal. So, dear children, here is a character being introduced, that is Rajkumar Shukla. He is one of the poor peasants living in Champaran. And where is Champaran? Under the foothills of the towering Himalaya, that is near the kingdom of Nepal. Okay. What do you mean by a peasant? A farmer. Peasant is a farmer. So when Gandhi was there with the National Congress party in Lucknow, a visitor came there. Who was that visitor? One Mr. Rajkumar Shukla. He introduced himself as Rajkumar Shukla from Champaran, and he wanted Gandhi to come to his district. But Gandhi had never heard of the place. Okay. And let us see what is his intention. Under an ancient arrangement, the Champaran peasants were sharecroppers. Sharecropper, they were all doing this farming together. Okay, that is sharecropper, cooperative system. Sharecroppers, Rajkumar Shukla was one of them. He was illiterate but resolute. So what do you mean by resolute? The word resolute here means determined. That means with a strong resolution, with a strong willpower. He was illiterate, means not educated, but resolute. By the way, another word meaning that has come up is emaciated, thin and lean. His physical appearance, this Rajkumar Shukla's physical appearance is very lean and thin. But he was illiterate but resolute. Resolute means determined, having a strong will. He had come to Congress session to complain about the injustice of the landlord system in Bihar. So, dear children, you can underline why he visited Mahatma Gandhi, because he wanted to narrate the injustice of the landlord system in Bihar, and somebody had probably said, speak to Gandhi. So, somebody advised him, you can speak to Gandhi. So, he reached there. Gandhi told Shukla he had an appointment in Kanpur and was also committed to go to other parts of India. Shukla accompanied him everywhere. Then Gandhi returned to his ashram near Ahmedabad. Shukla followed him to the ashram. For weeks he never left Gandhi's side. So this is a best example that Rajkumar Shukla is resolute. He wanted to get an appointment from Gandhiji. So he followed him all those places. Wherever Gandhiji visited, traveled, he too accompanied him. Fix a date. All the time he would ask him to fix a date. He begged. Impressed by the sharecropper's tenacity. What is tenacity? Okay, you can mark it. Tenacity means firmness. And he was impressed by the firmness of the person. Finally, Gandhi said, I have to be in Calcutta on such and such date. Come and meet me and take me from there. And no need to accompany everywhere. Anyway, Gandhi was going to visit Calcutta. From there, Rajkumar Shukla could take him. Okay, that is what he offered. Months passed. Shukla was sitting on his haunches, means on his buttocks. Haunches, buttocks. Actually, the animal haunch, the back part of is called haunch. Here, haunches stands for buttocks. He was sitting because that is the style. The North Indians generally they prefer sitting in that form. Especially farmers. At the appointed spot in Calcutta, when Gandhi arrived, he waited till Gandhi was free. Then the two of them boarded a train for the city of Patna in Bihar. There Shukla led him to the house of a lawyer named Rajendra Prasad. You know who is Rajendra Prasad, okay? Who later became president of the Congress Party and of India. President of India as well as president of the Congress Party. So Rajendra Prasad was out of town, but the servants knew Shukla as a poor yeoman, ordinary person, yeoman who pestered their master to help the indigo sharecroppers. When Gandhi was taken to Rajendra Prasad's house, the servants thought that Gandhi was also like Rajkumar Shukla. So they let him stay on the ground with his companion Gandhi, whom they took to be another peasant. The workers thought that Gandhi ji was also a peasant or a farmer, whom they took to be another peasant, but Gandhi was not permitted to draw water from the well, lest some drops from his bucket pollute the entire source. Actually, India was facing untouchability those days, and the servants thought that Gandhi was an untouchable, and they did not permit Gandhi to draw water from the well, thinking that the drop of water from the bucket will pollute the entire source of water. How did they know that he was not an untouchable? Because it's very difficult for them to identify whether he is a touchable or untouchable. Gandhi decided to go first to Muzaffarpur, which was en route to Champaran. Okay, it is en route to Champaran. Muzaffarpur is there, to obtain more complete information about conditions than Shukla was capable of imparting, capable of giving. Imparting means to give. So actually Shukla was an illiterate person, so he could not explain what the real problem was. So Gandhi wanted to obtain, he wanted to get more information or complete information from some other educated people from Muzaffarpur. He accordingly sent a telegram to the Professor J.B. Kripalini of the Arts College in Muzaffarpur, whom he had seen at Tagore Shantiniketan school. So Gandhi had familiarity with that man. So he sent a telegram. The train arrived at midnight, 15 April 1917. Kripalini was waiting at the station with a large body of students. Kripalini, being a professor, was escorted by a large number of students. They wanted to see Gandhiji. Gandhi stayed there for 2 days in the home of Professor Malkani, a teacher in a government school. So here is a question: where did Gandhi stay that night? At Professor Malkani's house. It was an extraordinary thing in those days, Gandhi commented, for a government professor to harbor a man like me in smaller localities. The Indians were afraid to show sympathy for advocates of home rule. So actually, Gandhiji was a man who was advocating for home rule. Okay, when Britishers were ruling India, Gandhi was one among them, advocating for home rule, a separate entity for our country. So people generally are afraid of keeping such people who are working for the independence. Okay, so that's why it is written in a smaller locality, the Indians were afraid to show sympathy for advocates of home rule. Gandhi was advocating for home rule, being an advocate. But in spite of that, Professor Malkani accommodated him. The news of Gandhi's advent and of the nature of his mission spread quickly through Muzaffarpur and to Champaran. Finally, the news of the arrival of Gandhi was spread, right? Sharecroppers from Champaran began arriving on foot and by vehicles. Conveyance means vehicle, to see their champion, to see their leader. Okay, defender. Champion here stands for defender, and home rule stands for self-government. Okay, because India was under the control of the Britishers then, so they all wanted to have a government of their own. So Gandhi was one among them, advocating for that. That's why generally government employees are afraid to accommodate. and here he was a defender, a champion for them all. Muzaffarpur Muzaffarpur lawyers called on Gandhi, means visited Gandhi to brief him. They frequently represented peasants groups in court. They told him about their cases and reported the size of their fees. So while Gandhiji was collecting idea from the lawyers, Muzaffarpur lawyers, they said the details about their cases and the size of their fees. And Gandhi chided the lawyers. What is chided? Scolded the lawyers for collecting big fee from the sharecroppers, because they are the poor peasants, poor sharecropper farmers, and these lawyers were collecting a high amount from them. He said, I have come to the conclusion that we should stop going to law courts. So what did Gandhi say to them? He said they should stop taking up the matter to the law courts. Taking such cases to the law courts does little good. Where the peasants are so crushed and fear-stricken, law courts are useless. The real relief for them is to be free from fear. So children, that you have to mark it, because Gandhi wanted to teach these peasants what? That they should be free from fear. So today we will do up to here. Yeah, see, let us make a review of what we have already discussed. So I told you this chapter is all about Gandhi's role in settling the Champaran issue, and that was a turning point in life of Gandhiji. And not only for Gandhiji, it was a turning point in the history of India or our nation. Okay, so today we got the introduction of that illiterate and resolute farmer Rajkumar Shukla, who wanted to meet Gandhiji and to get an appointment from him. And he started accompanying him all the places, but Gandhi said no need to accompany him for all the places. Instead, he would be visiting Calcutta. From there he could fix a date. And Shukla was very much ready at that place where Gandhi offered, and after Gandhi's commitments were over, and when he was free, Rajkumar Shukla took him to Bihar, the city of Patna in Bihar, and there on the way he took him to Dr. Rajendra Prasad's house, and he was the president of the Congress and of India. And by then he was not there, but the servants thought that Gandhi was one of the untouchable and did not allow him to draw water from the well. And Gandhi also wanted to collect more detail about the issue of Champaran, because Rajkumar Shukla was an illiterate person, might not be knowing much about the issue. So he went to Muzaffarpur. There, before reaching there, he made a telegram to J.B. Kripalani, the professor in the art college. And by the time Gandhiji and Shukla reached the station, Kripalani and a group of children were already waiting for them. And Gandhi was accommodated at one of the Professor Malkani's house. Home of Professor Malkani, a teacher in the government school. Okay, and those days it was a matter of fear to accommodate people like Gandhiji, because they were advocating for home rule. And finally, when Gandhi wanted to collect ideas from the lawyers of Muzaffarpur, they explained or they detailed the case, and also they conveyed that they were taking big amount of fees from the poor peasants. But Gandhi chided them. Why? Scolded them, telling that such cases should not be taken to the law courts, because law courts would crush them and the peasants would become more fear stricken. And the first relief that we have to give them is to free them from fear. Okay, children, we will all of you read well, and we will continue with the lesson tomorrow. Have a nice day ahead.